So hello, a while ago I bought this headlamp off AliExpress for like $30 and it had every feature that I wanted, so I thought, but it was rather cheap and nasty basically. Has various quality control problems, like just doesn't take much for these buttons just to come out, for example, you know. But it did come with a USB-C charging port, which was a necessity for me because I can't stand, you know, the horrid micro USB ports anymore. This contains a 21700 battery, right? So it's contained probably like a 5000 milliamp hour battery. And so you can use it as a power bank if you want to, which was, you know, a pretty cool feature, but I never used it. And the thing did weigh like 200 grams. So after persevering with this thing for a year, I thought, well, it's about time I purchased the best quality headlamp that money can buy. But it had to contain these following features. Right, so it had to have USB charging, has to have IP68 water resistance, which my old one didn't have, has to have a user replaceable lithium ion battery. Eventually I decided against a 21700 battery because it's too heavy really. It must have a red light. Now a lot of people don't see the usefulness of having a red light, but if you've ever been in a place where there's tons of insects in the air, which sometimes around my place there's lots of insects, lots of cabbage moths, the red light doesn't attract the insects. So it's real nice not having a lung full of moths. That's fantastic. A high CRI LED. Doesn't have to be the main powerful one, but still has to be pretty bright. Now CRI stands for Color Rendering Index. So that basically means that the colors that are produced by the light are nice and accurate. You'll get like a full spectrum of colors. Great for filming stuff. And also very important, no pulse width modulation flicker. If you're filming something and that's the absolute worst. Let me show you what PWM is and what it looks like, okay? So, oh wow, that is so bright. So this is without pulse width modulation. It has none on its high setting. But if I go down to medium, oh, look at that. Who would want to watch that? That is absolutely, dear me. So the reason why it does this, the cheap LED drivers in this torch can only decrease the amount of light output by basically chopping up the light into tiny little pieces and then spreading those pieces apart, which is why you get that banding effect. That's not what technically happens, but it's a pretty good analogy anyway. I also want over 1000 lumens of output, or close enough. And also a single unit design. I don't want some kind of separate battery kind of stuck to the back of my head, you know, just in case I want to use it as a hand torch. So after a lot of research, I singled it down to these 6 headlamps. So let's go through the pros and cons of each headlamp, and then I'll tell you why I basically bought this headlamp here, the CYANSKY HS6R. Let's do a really quick unboxing of this headlamp. So here is the headlamp and other stuff that usually comes with a headlamp. I had to remove this tiny little plastic so that it didn't discharge and, you know, whatever. Oh, you know what it is. And a spare rubber O-ring, USB-C charging cable, this little foam pad. We will talk about this foam pad later. Also came with a warranty card and an instruction manual. Yeah. So the first headlamp we'll look at is the Fenix HM70R, which comes at a retail price of about 157 Australian dollars, but you know, the price is all over the place sometimes. But you know, they're all quite pricey headlamps really. I don't want to buy cheap garbage. Now, one of the first things you'll notice about studying turbo run times and high run times in these LED headlamps is that there's a big fat asterisk at the end of every runtime, basically, or there should be, unless they're trying to deceive you. So this headlamp here puts out 1600 lumens and it will run in turbo for 2 hours. That asterisk represents that it will not run at 1600 lumens for 2 hours. it will run in turbo mode for 2 hours. There's a big difference, because to stop itself from cooking itself into oblivion, it has to limit the amount of power it puts out. So usually it can only run in turbo mode for a couple of minutes until it goes into like high mode or something. But yet again, who really needs over 1,000 lumens for a couple of minutes anyway? So this one was turbo on 1600, high lumen runtime, which claims somewhere on some user manual was 960. That's not correct. It's actually 500, and that will run for 6 hours. The low runtime was 30 lumens for 100 hours. Excellent runtimes, this torch. The lowest lumen output was 30 lumens for 100 hours, and this one came with a high CRI light of 80 plus CRI, which is, reasonably high, and that was 400 lumens for 8 hours. The red light was only 5 lumens, 400 hours. You've got a throw distance of 186 meters. It's very impressive with such a wide beam, but that would obviously just be in turbo mode. Now the battery for this one was a 21700 battery, and the thing weighs 206 grams. For me, I decided, after using this thing for ages, that having a head torch on my head, and this one weighs about 206 grams as well, which weighs that much, it's just a bit too heavy. Plus, 5,000 milliamp hour battery, that's a lot of power to invest in only lighting and a headlamp, especially when I'm going hiking or something. So I prefer to take a smaller headlamp and a battery bank, basically. So one cool feature for this Fenix was the USB-C port is waterproof when the USB-C protector screw is actually open. And that almost sold me. I really did like that feature. Also, the user interface in every headlamp is extremely important. The user interface in this one is absolutely abysmal. I do not like it. It seems good at first. You press it and it turns on immediately. Oh, great. But to turn it off, well, you got to cycle through every single mode. And then, then it gets into the off mode. Oh, dear. Okay, turn that on. I do not like a torch that immediately turns on its bright white lights. I want to go directly to red light. Okay, now we're on red light. Because another advantage with red light is that it preserves your night vision. So you don't want to immediately go to white light when you turn it on. You want the option to go directly to red. And the interface on the Fenix was actually, pretty good. Direct access to red, because it starts on red before it gets onto the high CRI light, and has a lockout function as well. Anyway, but the reason why I didn't pick this one is because it's too heavy and the red light was simply too low for my liking. The Nitecore HC68 will put out 2000 lumens for both LEDs for 1 minute, and then 750 lumens continuously, I think. I can't quite remember. I didn't include the proper runtimes in this one. I'm a bit of an idiot. Future me, put it on the screen. Yep. Okay, got 950 lumen spot, or 850 flood. Yeah, so I do like the Nitecore having the 1 lumen option, also known as moonlight mode. That will make the torch run for like 800 hours. Wow. So 1 lumen is basically what you get, when the moon is out. Sort of, something like that. It can give you hope in a dark cave, that kind of thing. The problem I didn't pick this torch, this is the main reason. All of the lights on it are below 70 CRI. I was so close, so amazing. Even the red light was like 11 lumens. I was like, oh yes, excellent throw distance. Probably only weighed about 160 grams with the battery, slightly over. USB-C charging as well. That should be in there in that box. The interface it has, it says, look at the stupid images. I can't be bothered summarizing. Oh dear. Okay, here's the stupid image. I hope you're happy. And it had this interesting 3-button design here, where you could actually cycle seamlessly between one light to another light, or have them both on at the same time, That was pretty cool. Wow, look at the gaps around that USB-C port. Not like the Fenix. This one actually needs that rubber seal, which is right here, So the Nitecore HC68 is an excellent headlamp unless you want really accurate colours, but you may not care about that at all. Now let's look at the Nitecore HC65 version 2. So here I've actually recorded down what it actually does in turbo mode. So it puts out 1750 lumens, and then it drops to 679 at 10 minutes. And then that lasts for over 2 hours. Now the high mode can maintain about 900 lumens for almost 10 minutes, and then it quickly drops off to about 550 lumens. There we go. I said it right the second time. Oh yes. And that will then last for 2 hours and 34 minutes. Okay, so the low run time is 50 lumens for 28 hours. Pretty impressive. Has another fantastic 1 lumen mode at 800 hours. I was so close to buying this headlamp. Oh, it looks so good. But then I realized that the high CRI LED only had 35 lumens. So disappointing. But the red light was at 11 lumens. That was pretty good. And the reason why I want it to be really bright, I'm not just trying to read a map or find the edge of a toilet seat or something. I'm actually walking around and trying to avoid potholes and stuff with a red light. So it has to be reasonably bright. So that looked really good. Pretty good throw. 18650 battery. 164.3 grams with the battery. Works with a USB-C to USB-C cable. I'm pretty sure the other Nitecore did that as well. The interface, okay, let me save you, no, that's not going to save you time at all. But if you want to dig real deep into how these torches truly behave, you've got to go to this website here, onelumen.com. Excellent headlamp reviews. And here we can read the interface. So you can see the interface is, quite in depth. You've got instant access and, some shortcuts to turbo and to moon. Single click to cycle through the modes. Double click to turbo temporarily. Press and hold turns it off. Doing a single click gives you ultra low, moonlight mode or something. Another really cool feature about these Nitecores is that, well, this one in particular anyway, has this incredible voltmeter inside of the head torch. So it actually measures the voltage of the battery, and then the blinking of the light, you can interpret that as the exact voltage that your battery is. And I think that is pretty cool. So the reason why I didn't pick this one was basically because the lumen output for the CRI globe was a globe, I'm sounding so old, LED was far too low, and well, everything else was just really good. Oh dear, anyway. The CYANSKY HS6R. Oh yes, now I'm excited. This was the lowest price head torch in the list at 89 Australian dollars. I bought mine from an eBay seller. There was the only person in Australia that was selling the thing. They were called Budget Direct Warehouse or something, I can't quite remember. Now the lumen output for this torch, I got lots of conflicting information from various different reviews about what the light output is, because, people get the torch, they conduct their own tests. Some people said, well, it's really only 1,000 lumens. Some people said it was more. One guy said that the rated lumen output was actually quite accurate. And then other people said that, it's only 800 lumens using the single spot mode, because you can actually turn both lights on here at the same time, which equals 1400 lumens, according to the spec sheet of this thing. Or just the single spotlight for 1200 lumens. But that 1200 lumens lasts for about 4 minutes, and then it will drop to a high mode basically. High mode here is 500 lumens. One guy reported it as 350, and that lasts for under 2 hours. The low lumen, so the lowest amount of lumens this thing can put out is 30, and that can come out of either LED, so either the spot or the flood, for 60 hours. It's, pretty good. Looks like someone measured it at 10 lumens, but after I've actually been using this thing, I can say that it seems a lot brighter than 10 lumens. It probably is 30 lumens. Now this also does have a high CRI LED in it, which is the flood LED. Excellent choice. And that will run for 3 hours at 500 lumens. And the quality of that CRI light is really good quality. It's 95 CRI. That really blows everything else out of the water. Amazing. The red light is rated for 10 lumens, but someone measured it at 16.7 for 60 hours, and it has 170 meters of throw distance using the narrow beam. 18650 battery, button top, 162 grams, Also has USB-C charging, you know, just under this little rubber flap here. There is the USB-C port. Isn't it marvelous? Now the interface, let me show you the interface. It's a very, very simple interface. And I actually kind of like it. It doesn't have any shortcut modes or like instant access modes, but it does memorize every mode that you set it in. It's got 2 buttons, and this button here lets you access the red lights and also the floodlight, and this button here only lets you access the spotlight. So hold it down to turn on for about half a second. It turns on the red light, then you tap to cycle through modes. So red flashing, not useful for me, but it's there. Then you've got low flood, medium flood, and high flood. And you can see in any of these modes, you have absolutely 0 PWM problems. Isn't that marvelous? And then you hold the button down again, and it will turn off. And when you hold it again, it will remember the last mode you're in. And I like to leave it, on red. So remember that one for me. Thank you. It goes the same with the spotlight. That's low, medium, high, turbo. No PWM on any modes. So it's a very simple interface and very quick to get used to. Now we've got the Fenix HM60R. Well, I looked at this torch after looking at the CYANSKY, and I thought to myself, why would I buy this torch over the CYANSKY? I couldn't find a single specification about it that was better than the CYANSKY, and it was more expensive. No, all the lumen outputs are a bit lower. It's the same. It has a lower CRI rating on the LED. The red light's only 5 lumens. Throw distance is a lot less. A few grams lighter, who cares? Also, this Fenix torch had this really, really weird feature I didn't like the sound of. Has this weird accelerometer in it, and it changes how bright the light is when you're walking. It's like if you start jogging, it makes it a bit brighter for you so you can see further or something like that. I don't know, some AI torch or whatever it's, I don't know. So I could not justify buying this one over the CYANSKY. It was, yeah. Then I discovered this Acebeam H30. This thing I was so tempted to buy. It had literally every feature I could ever dream of and more. Like when you look at the specifications of this Acebeam, you will be amazed compared to like 4,000 lumens for 2 minutes and 3 seconds, and then it will stay at 1,000 lumens for 2 hours. I couldn't believe my eyes. 1,000 lumens for 2 hours. It's really, really hard to find a head torch that will stay like at 500 lumens for 2 hours, let alone 1,000. 500. This one will eventually drop to 500. This one will eventually drop to 550. This one's probably 500. No, this one's only 350, and it does have an option because there's multiple models of the Acebeam H30 available. You can get one with 120 lumen CRI light. The lowest lumen is 3 lumens at 200 hours. Not terribly efficient as far as I can see for that low lumen output, considering how big the battery is on this one. The high CRI LED of 120 lumens can run for 11 hours. And if you don't want a high CRI LED for this Acebeam, it can also come with a UV LED. Crazy stuff like that. The red light, wow, 50 lumens of red light. That was pretty mind-blowing. I was like, oh yes, 50 lumens of red light, oh yes. And then 171 meters while being very wide. Can you imagine illuminating a whole valley all at once? And then we got to the battery it takes. It takes a 21700 battery. And I thought, well, okay, it's a bit heavier, but for all these extra features and brightness levels, and I have the ability to show off a 4000 lumen mode, and I can, I don't know, blind Martians and the home planet, I don't know. It's worth it, you know. But then I read that many people have reported the thing does not have USB-C to USB-C charging. That means you can't use a double-ended USB-C cable to charge the thing. It does come with a USB-C port in it, and the thing can even double up as a power bank with an extra special little cable it comes with, which is also kind of annoying. So, well, I thought, forget about it. I'm not buying it. No, it's the last straw. It's the only straw, actually, and it's the last one. Because I realized that a dull torch is a lot better to have than a torch which is difficult to charge in like 5 years. And if I'm spending that much money on a torch, like 174 Australian dollars, it better last. It better be easy to charge. The other problem with this torch is that the waterproof end cap for charging completely screws off the end of the torch. So it's loose and you could probably lose it or something. And then we got to the interface, and the interface I think was okay for this one. Didn't come with an instant red option though, which was really annoying me. And just to rub salt into the wounds, they decided to put in an instant SOS red option. And as soon as I read that they put an instant access for SOS red, I realized what kind of torch this was and who it was for. This torch is designed for idiots who easily get lost and just want to show off 4,000 lumens at a campsite, you know. So there you go. That's basically why I bought this torch. It wasn't like the perfect torch, but it was a torch that annoyed me the least, basically, and had everything that I wanted. Now, but it's not without its problems, though. As soon as I got this torch, the power went out at my house. So I used it for like 5 hours straight. And I do have a few little tiny little problems with it, which aren't deal breakers. I still love the torch. The first one that I can't fix, but I think I can live with it, it's fine, is this rubber little flap. The rest of the torch is made of such a high standard that I'm surprised they went for a little rubber flap on the USB-C charging port. All the other torches I was looking at comes with a big heavy-duty screw ring that goes around the charging port. This little rubber flap, which presses into the charging port, is what gives it its IP68 water resistant rating. So I'm going to make sure that's pressed in there properly and you don't, flick it open or something. Although there's not much gap around the USB-C charging port for water to actually get in there. So I would hope they would put some water resistant kind of rubber or something around the port. That would be very nice. I don't know if they did that though. Another cool thing about this torch that no other torch has that I've noticed is that the headband buckle strap, whatever it's called, is actually made out of metal. Like clearly they've designed this torch to last forever. A lot of them are made out of rubber or plastic. Look at that. Metal. And even though it's metal, it's actually surprisingly comfortable. And just in case you don't find it comfortable enough, it also comes with this adhesive foam pad you can put underneath like that. You could cut it to size. But that brings us to the head strap. Now the head strap, considering that this torch only has a single head strap and it weighs 160 grams, it's actually surprisingly secure. But it's still not as secure as a torch that has an over-the-top head strap as well. And it's a wonderful head strap. It's nice and wide, soft and comfortable. But if I was to adjust this to a length and size, for the circumference of my head, so it's not holding my head too tightly, it's not quite at the star jumping level of security that I need. Because quite often at night I'm running around with some deranged dog that smelt a fox or something, and I really need a headlamp that doesn't, shake around or slowly work its way down its brow until it hits the ridge of my nose with this metal part here. So I have to make this a lot tighter than what I'm used to, which is, okay. But if you're wearing it for more than an hour at a time, it starts to make its presence known on your head. And I'm just like, So I think I will add a third head strap from here to here, which looks like it would be quite easy to do. I could put a loop of elastic around this metal bar here, loop it round, loop it around here like that. Then I think this head torch would be just about perfect. Another thing about this torch, which may or may not be a problem, I don't know, is the battery. I wanted a torch that took a regular 18650 battery. And apparently this here is a regular 18650 battery. Look, it says so, 18650. But I have another 18650 battery, and it is quite a bit shorter. Look how much shorter that is. It's quite significant. So if I was to put an 18650 battery in here, I constantly have fantasies of, or more like nightmarish fantasies of being in some kind of dystopian wasteland, and I need a new battery for my head torch, and I pull one out of an old laptop or something, and oh look, it doesn't work. Oh dear. Oh, it just rattles around in there because it's just too short. So it needs one of these extra long ones. It's probably more like an 18670 or something, which technically doesn't exist. You can see there's some funny kind of interference bars, those two little moon-shaped next to the copper contact. So I'm not sure if a regular 18650 flat top battery will work with this torch at all, but there's one way to find out. Let's do a slight modification, shall we? So I have this extra spring here I pulled out of an old pen, and I'm going to add the spring to this spring by winding it in here somehow. So hoping I could twist it in there like that and it would just like stay there. I think that's about as close as I'm going to get it. Positive side goes in. Okay, here we go. Never done this before. Will it work? Oh yes, it works. Aha! Doesn't shake around. High, very high, turbo, low. Excellent. That is excellent news. So with a slight modification, you can get any 18650 battery to work in there. You just need a larger spring. Now, with every headlamp review, you probably want beam shots or something. So let's have a look at some beam shots. Beams. Okay, let's see how this terrible phone camera can show you how bright this torch is. So this is at the low level, which is apparently 30 lumens, and I can see a good like 20 odd meters away with this torch, and this is the mode I'm in actually most of the time. So it's pretty good. It's a fair distance away, that shed, probably about 15 meters. Got the tree there, good, okay. Now let's go into medium. Yes, very nice. Have a look at the shed. Got the tree. It's quite a big tree up there. Now let's get into high. The trees. Look at the shed. And now because I'm in high, I might be able to see all the way down the hill there, because there is a shed all the way down there, 170 meters away, which is its maximum distance it can see stuff. Okay, so that is turbo. You might be able to make out the tree line down there, which is 170 meters away, and I can make it out. Whether this camera can, I don't know. Or I can make out the shed. Yes, definitely. Wow. Okay, that's amazing. Now, when a torch says, oh, you can see stuff 170 meters away, it really means not very brightly, but like at, well, I think it was 0.25 lux, I think, is the regular standard people go by. Not very bright at all. It's like lower than moonlight kind of brightness. But this is very impressive. I can see probably even further than 170 meters away. That's, yeah, I can. I can see trees which are a lot further than 170 meters. Let's try the auxiliary lights. So we try red. Here we go. Look over here. Yeah, I can just make out that big shed. Let's go to flashing red. Horrible. Okay, now this is the low mode for the high CRI floodlight. Medium for the high CRI floodlight. And high. And that looks pretty good to me. That's okay, well, that's that, I guess.